Let us jump. Just finished chapter 7, and we are diving into chapter 8. Chapter 8, which is B'derech Knias Hazrizus, and on the way to be able to acquire, to be able to be to acquire Zrizus. How do we develop it into ourselves? Now, you will find here, which will be a good little Chazara piece, that a lot of the principles that we talked about with Zehirus, very right, Adina? Zehirus versus Zerizus,
I
that
didn't hear when you said it.
a lot of the functions are very much in the same, right? Yeah, it's like when you're dealing with something that's not physical, it's not tangible, right? If I want to get physically stronger, there's a derech to do it. With these things, which are midos, which are by nature, they're not something that we can hold. It really a lot of times comes down to just having the right motivation. And we said it earlier, is that if a person is capable of doing something, then it's just about finding the right motivation. Sometimes you can motivate yourself to recognize its importance. Another time there could be external motivations. By the way, one of those motivations is when Hashem makes challenges in a person's life. Why does Hashem put challenges in a person's life? There's a lot of reasons for that. One of those reasons is to be able to serve as a catalyst for change, an external motivation that people want to try to remove pain. A person is in a difficult scenario, a difficult situation, and it begs of them to get going and to do something that can motivate somebody to move. You can do this with again, like if you have small children, right? You can create certain consequences. You can create sort of external pressures that are going to motivate them and give them the right drive. Now, obviously, if du es Hashem b'simcha, you want to be able to serve God with simcha. And there are times, though, that Hashem is not going to just sort of sit there complacent while a person, wastes away their life, and they need a little bit of a kickstart. So, a person is capable of a lot more than they think of when it comes down to human motivation, right? What's at stake? You see this when something very drastic or intense, and it just motivates a person to do something that's beyond. You see that in movies all the time, right? Like that movie Taken, right? To use a sort of a negative example. But the movie Taken, right? The guy takes his daughter, and all of a sudden now he can destroy the entire KGB
What's
and the
taken?
Albanian. Oh, you're so frim. It's it's a
No,
movie.
for real. Is it like new?
Liam Neeson, you don't know, like, I will
No,
find
can
you,
you explain?
I will
Yeah,
kill
I'm
you.
also lost.
Wow, did I
Me
just
too.
age myself? And the movie came out in like 2018.
We were in fifth grade in 2018.
Oh my God.
That was our first summer at camp.
Yeah, I was so from in fifth grade.
That's
So
uh
prom.
that's disturbing. Okay.
Living under a rock.
Basically, it's a movie with Liam Neeson where his daughter gets kidnapped and he goes and just totally just destroys the entire, Russian mafia, like by himself. He comes in and just literally kills everybody. Why? Why did he do something heroic? Because the motivation was there, right? They took his daughter. So, right, it's a negative example, but on the inverse, somebody offers you a crazy sum of money to go and accomplish something you didn't think you were going to accomplish, all of a sudden you can accomplish it, right? So everything in life is about when you're dealing with the motivation to become a better person and working on your midos, the motivation is got to be there. What am I fighting for? There are some people who are just really obsessed with growth and want to be the best they can be, and they want it so badly that they'll push themselves, and these people will generally rise above. Other people will quit when the going gets tough. Like they don't want to be. They're talented enough to make it to here, but they don't want to get there because they're not willing to invest the amount of time, commitment, and sacrifice that it takes because the motivation's not there. So let's dive in. So the means for acquiring Zrizus is the self-same ones for acquiring Zahirus. It's almost like I read that before. And their progressive levels are the same as well, as I've written above. So it's going to be a little bit of a review here on the next two pages. And this is because their functions are very closely related, which also makes sense. Here comes Blum Cakes. Let's set him in here. Oh, almost forgot. Da, 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 da. Did he get in? Did it work? Um, Dina. Ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. One second. Okay. Tov, and we're back. Yes, Mashiach.
Do you take attendance every single time?
Yes, I do.
That's so funny. For what?
I always notice that.
For the
Yeah,
deaf.
me too. For
Really?
what?
When I say, hold on one second, and you see me scribbling? Uh,
Yeah,
No,
for
I've never noticed that. Why do you take attendance?
because you
I've
got.
noticed every
He
time.
wants to know who's here. It makes sense.
Are you kidding me? There's a lot of benefits.
To
Like,
attendance?
Okay.
I'm gonna pull out Tsuri and just sit here and stare at you when you ask a question and not give you any actual relevant information. How's that sound? Cool. All right, and we're back. So. Okay, this is because the functions are very closely related. The only difference is that the former concerns the positive commandments and the latter the negative commandments, right? There are in the Torah, there are comprised of 613 mitzvahs, 248 mitzvahs aseh, which is to do, and 365 mitzvahs los aseh, to not do, right? What is the practical difference between an aseh and a los aseh? Ase, which is to do, means something you proactively to do, and los ase means you have something that you don't do, you restrain yourself from, you hold yourself back from. What's a example of a mitzvah ase? Anybody?
Don't mix
Don't
milk and meat.
idolatry.
What was
Oh,
that?
you go, you go.
I'll give you a hint. If the word don't is in there,
Yeah. It's
probably
positive mitzvahs. Be happy. That's not a mitzvah. But I mean, maybe, be happy.
Well, I thought you said ones that say not to do.
no, an ase. What is a positive commandment? A mitzvah ase.
Keep Shabbat.
Very
Like
good.
like give tzedakah.
It's interesting when you say keep Shabbat.
Yeah, I was also thinking about that. I was
It's
gonna say
it's
keep Shabbat, and then I was thinking about 39 Malachos because we were doing it in class today, and then I was like, maybe that's not a good example.
right. I mean, it's interesting, right? It's the way that
Believe in one
Darshan
God.
Shomer Shabbat. What was that?
Yeah.
Believe in
Believe
one God.
Very good, right? Anochi Hashem Elokecha. That is a mitzvah saseh. And what would be a mitzvah to believe in Hashem? Belief, not just to believe, but what that means. What's a mitzvah lo saseh, Shira or Shishi, as
Oh,
you?
I had a question though. It was a little off topic, but when you said that
Oh,
believing in
I
God,
Asuri special.
I was the OG. Hold on.
guys, look at this water bottle.
what is it? What does it have?
It's so
Oh,
Oh, that's so
cute.
so cute. What I was asking was, when like believing in one God is a mitzvah, but like people who are like, as kids, heard so many people go, I don't know if I believe in God. So like, what do people do when they just don't follow that mitzvah? Like, how do they combat that?
So what I would say is first of all, it's a very. I mean, we could really talk about that for a long time. Anochi Hashem Elokecha is one of my favorite mitzvahs because it's not as simple as we would say to believe in it. It's really a spectrum. There are different levels on it. What I would say as a kid who says I struggle with belief in God, that doesn't mean that they proactively don't believe in God. Actually, most of the kids who say I don't believe in God don't actually mean that in and of itself. Because again, how can you have a 15-year-old atheist who doesn't believe in God? What they really mean is they struggle seeing the reality of Hashem. It doesn't mean they don't believe in God. If you were to like break it down for them and say, okay, well, where did the world come from? Who generated the Big Bang? Who created the matter that caused the reaction originally? Anyone
Yeah,
come, okay, there's someone out there, right? I don't have a good relationship doesn't mean that you don't believe in God. It just means you're on the spectrum. So a person struggling, Anochi Hashem Elokecha is on the most simple level, the Ramban says, the most basic level is just recognizing that there is a being out there that created the world. So everyone's there, right? Whether or not like, oh, I feel distant from God, whatever, you're on the spectrum. So it's one of those mitzvahs where it's not like we don't measure, it's not necessarily something you could check a box in, right? Like to build a sukkah, it's a mitzvah saseh. Okay, great. I'm going to build a sukkah. Like there is a way to do it and a way not to do it. It's, something you do or you don't do. This is a very interesting mitzvah because everyone does it. It just the question is where are you on that spectrum, which is pretty cool. Which is why it's not a commandment, it's a statement. Anochi es Hashem Elokecha, Hashem Tzitzim Eretz Mitzrayim, right? That it's just I am your God. That's not a commandment. That's a statement. But that's what it means. It's even if you have a hard time believing in me, I'm still your God, right?
right.
So find me a teenage Jew who's not on that spectrum somewhere. It's doesn't really exist.
Hmm.
It's the easiest mitzvah to keep, but it's also the hardest mitzvah to keep because it is a lifelong pursuit of just moving your way down that spectrum, right? The bare minimum, recognizing that there is a higher power that created the world. The highest level is seeing God in every single thing you do, just being immersed in godliness. So. We're all somewhere there, and life's about trying to move ourselves down the
Mhm.
conveyor to the right there. That makes
Thank you.
for sure. I'd love to remind me at a different time if we're together, we could go through the Sefer HaChinuch on that mitzvah. It's
Oh,
unbelievable, and it dissects really the Jewish approach to faith. We think of faith in a very Christian way, meaning that like you believe and you don't believe, and you have to believe in this entity, and it's not at all the way that God says to know Hashem. He says in this week's parsha also that he's trying to teach Paro that Paro should know Hashem, not believe in Hashem, but know Hashem. That means that's possible,
mm,
right? That our job is to know who he is. So it's actually a very, very cool, one of the most important ones out there for sure. Okay,
like,
let's dive back into it. Right. So what is he saying here? Okay. He says this is because the former, meaning Zehirus, deals with mitzvos los aseh, and Zrizus deals with mitzvos aseh, meaning that Zehirus, which is self-awareness, you have to be aware of yourself. Why? So that you don't fall into danger. I'm able to identify, and some of the metaphors, some of the visuals that he created was a blind man walking on the riverbank, right? If you're blind, you can fall into the water, you can come to danger. If you're aware, if you're woke, then you have the ability to see what's going on around you and protect yourself from falling into danger. Another metaphor he uses is oh, I just had it. It was really good. A blind man walking in the darkness, right? Like a blind man walking, he's more likely to come to danger than into harm, right? So it's like you don't see things that are in front of you, you can stumble. So when a person is aware of things, then they're able to identify, oh my God, that's danger. That's something that's another one is how an animal flees from fire. If you see something that's destructive and dangerous for you, and you have the wherewithal to say, hey, that's bad, that's no good, that's your self-awareness. A person will prevent themselves from falling into danger. On the reverse, the mitzvahs aseh are zrizus. When we talked about last week, the last couple of weeks, when I see an opportunity to do a mitzvah, I'm passive if I don't do it. Right? I'm held accountable for the inaction that I don't take. I do take, whatever. Right. If I have an opportunity to do something amazing, I don't do it, I pass up an opportunity. I may be held accountable for that. But zrizus means, hey, I see an opportunity to do good, right? To do good, and therefore I'm going to go and act. Right. So the mental to withhold myself from action, and that's chesed or gevura. When do I give? When do I hold back? When I put them both together, I get tiferes, I get beauty. There are times in life that require you to have the wherewithal to act with haste, and there are times where your inaction is really what is demanded of you. I should not do something that's about to happen. I should stop myself from doing it. So it's a beautiful way to frame that. When a person discovers the full value of the mitzvahs and the extent of his obligations regarding them, his heart will certainly be inspired towards the service of the eternal and will not retract from it. It's about the right motivation, right? Understand the right motivation. I'll give you a parable. If I go to my son, Mordechai Ezra, who is now 15 months old, and I tell him, you know, I want you to eat all of your dinner, right? If you eat all of your noodles, I'll take out my wallet, I'll give you $300 in cash. And I take out that $300, and he takes that $300 and he proceeds to put it in his mouth because he has absolutely no idea what to do with cash because he's 15 months old. So he has no idea what the value is, right? I don't think my 4-year-old would care about that as much. And yet, if I went over to one of you guys and offered you $300 cash to do something, you'd be like, yeah, of course, I'm in for sure. And what he's saying is that a person recognizing the value of mitzvahs, a person recognizing the value of certain opportunities wouldn't pass it up no matter what. The reason why we pass up on opportunities to grow for mitzvahs, to be able to get schar in Olam Haba, to get merit in the world to come, and to be able to help ourselves grow is we don't know what we're being offered. This is like my life in a nutshell as a recruiter. I go around fighting other people's Yetzaharas for a living. What do I mean? I go around offering opportunities to come to a Shabbaton and to come to an event, to a learning event, and to come to a summer program and to take a gap year. And what am I doing? I am offering something, and they're to somebody who doesn't at the moment see the value. How much easier would it be? I find myself having to advocate for a kid to come on a summer program that would be the best decision that they ever made in their life And I find myself caring more about that for them. Why? Because they don't know the value in which what's being offered to them. Now, to some degree, this is us as well. If we only knew the schar, which means merit, if we only knew the merit that certain opportunities to do mitzvot had, we would be all over that. That would motivate us in the right, proper way. Right? If anybody really, as this is about like Shabbos, if anybody really, really understood what Shabbat was all about, and I don't mean just intellectually understanding it, right? We can teach a session on it, but I mean like in their kishkas, like they know how incredible, how important Shabbat is. Is there any chance that they wouldn't keep? Of course they would. They just don't understand that. So to some degree, why is learning and education important? Because when a person really grasps how valuable a mitzvah is and the opportunity to be able to do that and serve Hashem and fulfill my purpose to that degree in that moment, there's no way that I could pass it up. For sure not, right? It's going to inspire a person. We may, however, invigorate this awakening by observing all the good that Hashem, the Holy One, blessed be He, does for man at every moment, and the great wonders that He does for him at the time of birth until the day he dies. And this is something that I always struggled with when I was your age, and I, to some degree, still struggle with it as well. There's a mitzvah in the Torah that we say every single day that you might not have noticed. After we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Machasol Ilam Ve'ed, we say V'yahavta es Hashem Elokecha. And that is one of the 613 mitzvot. That is a mitzvah aseh, that is a positive commandment, that you should love your God with all your heart, with all your might, with all your soul. And the question is, how can I be commanded to love someone? Can you imagine if I came to you and I just said, hey, you need to love that person? And you're like, oh, why? Like it's easy to love your parents, but like there are some kids who don't. Imagine I said like, no, you need to love your parents, right? Let's say you didn't like forget love. Let's say you didn't love your parents, or you didn't like your parents, or you didn't love your sibling. I said you need to. Okay, it's easier. Imagine I came over to someone who you had no relationship with and said, no, you need to. It is a requirement. God is commanding you to love Him. I was always like, that's kind of like, like what do I do with that? Like, okay. Sure, it's not like taking a lulav and esrog and putting up a mezuzah. I can wrap tefillin and have no idea what I'm doing. To love someone is an internal, like intimate emotion. Like how do you do that to someone?
It's when you're commanded to not be jealous. Like, how do you just stop
Right?
at
Well, I would suggest that it's probably easier. It's similar, right? You're being commanded to do an emotion, and I think this is one of the most beautiful things about Judaism, and I love this. We have the ability to dictate the way that we feel. We live in a world today where, like, I feel, therefore I am, right? If I feel this way, everything in the world has to bend and accommodate my feeling. Where Judaism comes along and says, no, 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 there are ways you are supposed to feel. You are supposed to be happy on Yom Kippur. You are supposed to be happy on Purim. There is Simchas Yom Tov. On a holiday, on Pesach, on Shavuot, you are commanded to be happy. You are commanded to be sad on Tisha B'Av. You are supposed to be sad. There are things that God is commanding a person to feel one way or the other. And it's like, how do you do that? God would not ask of you to do something that wasn't possible. Of course, it's possible, right? How does one condition themselves to feel a certain way? And the answer is with your brain, with your seichel, by recognizing, by reading a room, by having emotional maturity, and when you're emotionally well as a person, you can look at things and say, I'm meant to feel this way, and I can work towards feeling this way. So, Shishi, to answer your question, right? Like I'm not supposed to be jealous. How do I do that? You're right that it is human nature. You might intrinsically feel that way. But what do you do when you catch that and you're like, okay, I felt jealous. Now I have to start to work on myself. And it's possible in this pursuit to work on yourself, to actually absolve yourself of jealousy. How? By being, anybody know, famous mission in Pirkei Avos? I'll be so happy if someone gets this. Ezahu Ashir. Yeah, that's right. Regional board. Woof. Ugh. What does that mean? Take us home.
Someone who is happy is like someone who's rich is like someone who's like happy to what they have. Like they're like they appreciate what they have and like they don't like always like strive to have like the best.
Very
Like
good. Because if you were happy with everything that you had, you would not be jealous emotionally. You just wouldn't. If you were so happy with your spouse and your kid, you would never look at someone else's family being like, oh, I wish, right? That's how you, so there is a way to emotionally wean yourself off from that human nature, right? The body can, the human nature can have in its initial emotion, but we have the ability, as God says, to dictate the way that we feel about things. How? By analyzing them and look at them and say, you know what? Listen, do you think I was sad on Tisha B'Av as a kid? I had no idea what I was doing. You know what? It's annoying. I'm sad that I can't eat, right? But like, do I know what's going on? And then you learn about the Beis Hamikdash. You learn about the destruction of the temple. You learn about the fact that we're here in Gullus and exile, and you see all the things that exile has caused to the Jewish people, the disease of Gullus, and you look at the state of where we're in. You're sitting on the floor. You look around, and what do you think to yourself? Oh my God, everything that we're lacking is because of this issue here. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, you start to feel a sadness to it. And when you tap into that beauty, right? Like Oneg Shabbos, like, what is Oneg Shabbos? You sit around, there's like gummies and sunflower seeds on the table in Israel. And then something beautiful happens in November in your seminary year, and it clicks, and you're like, oh my God, wow. I never understood what the happiness and the joy was from my advisors. And like I never got that. And all of a sudden you're just filled with this feeling because you sat down, you learned about it, you condition yourself to feel a certain way. We have the ability to condition the way that we feel, and that's a beautiful concept. And it goes directly against the stupid narishkeit that you hear in America of like, if I feel this way, it's the right thing. And you're like, stop, it's not all about you. You gotta make way for others. So how does somebody bring themselves, right, to love Hashem? What's the roadmap to loving Hashem? The Mesilas Hashem, Ramchal, lays it out here beautifully. What have you done for me lately? The way to be able to get to a place of love of Hashem, and you see this within tefillah, and it's very beautiful how tefillah is like lift up. Why am I praising God and thanking God? And I'm going through recognizing who Hashem is. When I get to see what God is and what He's done for me, I start to give right the roadmap to love of Hashem. I believe the biggest way, the express lane there is gratitude through Hakar Satov. When a person's able to recognize all the bracha and all the things that God gave to them in life, how could you not love this individual? When you look at somebody who changed your life or gave everything to you, how could you not have a sense of love for that individual? That's, by the way, why it's so easy to love a parent. It's easy to love a parent, right? I don't think we naturally love our parents, but when you go around on like the Oneg and you ask the question of like who impacted you, and everybody is a cop out because they highlight, yes, Chayesari, I know. Everybody highlights their parents, right? But why? Why their parents? Because your parents did everything for you. And even if you don't have a great relationship with them, you can still recognize that this person changed my diapers and this person bathed me and fed me and took care of me when I was sick. This person did everything for me. So of course I can love them because I recognize, this person has done so much for me, right? That's an easy one. And gratitude is the way to be able to get there. So when a person, right, invigorates himself, when he recognizes that man, every moment, the great wonders that he does from his time on birth until the day that he dies, right? Marabu Masecha Hashem, and that Hashem that he recreates everything constantly, meaning that every single day exists and functions. There's things that like, okay, you win a lottery or something, you can thank Hashem for it. But how about like the fact that the sun rises every single morning? You wake up, you say Moda'ani. That, of course, they become routine, so we forget it, but they actually generate a love for Hashem. How can a person not be filled? When a person is infatuated and in love with somebody, that's when they get going. That's when they're filled with this. So our job, again, to fill ourselves with the love of Hashem, to fill ourselves with the recognition of how valuable the mitzvahs are, that can serve as a motivation to get a person going with zrizas. The more one observes and contemplates these matters, the more he will recognize his great debt to the benefactor of God. And we don't mean debt as in, oh, it's transactional. Oh, you did for me and I did for you. Like, that's crazy, right? I don't look at like, I come home, my wife like surprises me and like she went out and like got my favorite food and like made me like I came home and like she set up my favorite dinner for me or something, right? Like, oh great, she did that for me. Now I need to figure out how I'm going to pay her back. Like that's just not how that works, right? When you say like great in debt, meaning that like, oh my God, I am in so much debt to you because I'm so lucky to have a relationship with you, right? With Hashem, especially with Hashem, like the amount that you've done for me, right? I'm not like, oh, you did for me, so therefore, like, that's not the best way to like feel and look at the situation. We talk about a debt. It's like, wow, I have the opportunity to be in a relationship. You've done so much for me. You have so much love for me. I want to do something for you. I just have this this feel. Actually, it's crazy. I'll mention Julia because she was here. I remember when she was on Yeshiva TJJ, after we spoke to Rabbi Berg, she came to me afterwards. She was very inspired, and she's like, I like have this huge like desire to like do something for Hashem. She's like, I don't know. I'm just like I'm feeling like this huge urge. I just want to go and do something for him. I'm like, that's incredible, Like, what can you do? Go daven, go do a mitzvah, right? Like when you feel that way, you're motivated, you're energized, you want to do good in that moment, right? So one of the angles to how to get a person to have that, we call it motivation, because it fills the person with the drive to be able to do what they ultimately want to do. And this in turn will become the means that will safeguard him from being indolent and lax in his service of the eternal. If you have a good relationship, if you maintain that good relationship, you're not going to be lazy. You get lazy when you fall out of love. You get lazy when you start to not care or appreciate or value the relationship anymore. And this is with all relationships, right? These are not just in terms of like husband and wife. There's also in terms of siblings and friends, parents. Like if you're going to be lazy in that relationship, it's because you've fallen a little bit. Things have become bland. You've fallen a little out of love. You got to remind yourself who that person is. Remind yourself why you love them so much. And that ultimately, in turn, is going to fill you with a sense of drive. Although he will certainly cannot repay him for his goodness, he will be able to realize that he should at least extol his name and fulfill the mitzvahs. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're created and we were put here to do. There isn't a person, no matter what his circumstances are. This is, again, something he mentioned before. Poor or rich, healthy or sick, who does not perceive numerous wonders and acts of benevolence in his situation. There is nobody, again, no matter what situation you're going through. You gotta have perspective over here. There's some people who go through unbelievable amounts of tragedy and suffering, and yet even those people have what to thank Hashem for. Right? And if you're on that certain level with Hashem, when you have that type of connection with Hashem, when it's not transactional, as in like, I only pray when I need something and I get frustrated if your answer is no. But people who have like those really solid relationships with Hashem, they can endure almost anything in the world. A wealthy person or healthy individual is already in debt to the Blessed One for his wealth and his good health. A poor person is also indebted to him for every man. In his poverty, he's sustained by the eternal miraculously and wonderfully. He does not allow him to die of hunger, and similarly, a sick person, and he strengthens him during this relentless sickness and suffering, and does not allow him to descend to the grave. Right now, everybody is thinking to themselves, well, what happens in the reverse? Okay, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole here. But the same is with any of similar nature, which means that there is not a single person who will fail to recognize his indebtedness to the Creator. There's not a single person, no matter what a person's situation out here is, that cannot find a way to be have a sense of gratitude towards Hashem for what He's done for him, and that is what a person again. That will bring a person, the karasatov factor, the gratitude will bring a person to v'ahavta es Hashem elekecha, loving Hashem with all your might, with all your soul, with all your strength. And ultimately, that will motivate when a person has that love for Hashem. It will motivate them to be able to do their avodas Hashem on a high level. Sorry, Oof. That time of the week. And when he does observe the benevolence of the Eternal as bestowed upon him, he will surely be inspired to alacrity in his service to the Eternal, as I've written above. And this applies with even greater force if he considers all the goodness that he has received is dependent on the Blessed One's hands. Whatever he needs and whatever is essential from the Blessed One and no other. We have to also remember that when good fortune does fall upon us, or when anything happens, even if it's something that we're used to, it has a more mundane feel to it. Cannot forget where it comes from and not take it for granted. Right? Samech bechelko, as Dina Canyu said, right, that a person is happy with what they have. They're satisfied and content with what they have. That means a person is rich, not just in terms of their wealth, but rich in terms of their life and their stock. And therefore, he will surely not be able to afford being indolent in his service to the Blessed One as to not find himself deprived of what is so vital to him. That's a key word. What is vital to him? A person needs to know what it is that they're in the pursuit of. A person has to know what their purpose is. If a person is not, and I said this on Gap Year weekend, if you remember, like when I was in school, and we were talking about, I would read journals, especially in positive psychology, but any academic journal that I would read that would talk about how to immediately improve someone's performance in school, there's always a talk or a suggestion or mention of giving a person a sense of their why. Because if a person knows why they're doing what they're doing, that why, that knowledge of why I'm doing that sort of like recheck will motivate a person because they'll fall out of it if I'm just doing things without understanding why. So a person has to know why serving Hashem is vital to him, why being a Jew is important. see chapter 1 in Chovas HaTalmidim for a refresher on that, to pump yourself up, to recognize what our goal is here as Jews, what our mission is here, and what we're meant to do. Right? Because at the end of the day, that has to be the reality check. Why do I care so much about having my flawless divine service? To finish the chapter. So you can see that I've incorporated my words here with the three progressive levels that I've categorized in reference to the virtue of vigilance. For they, vigilance and alacrity are one and the same in their respect, and either one can be derived from the context of the other. Those were the three levels of motivation that the Ramchal talked about. It took us a couple of weeks to get through all that. Those who are truly wise will be motivated by their sense of duty and their cognizance of the value and the significance of their deeds, right? The first person will be motivated because really it's the same thing. The motivation to not do a mitzvah los aseh and the motivation to do a mitzvah aseh really are one and the same. The highest level being someone who just wants dvekus with Hashem. They just want to be connected with Hashem, and anything that impedes that to them, they look as toxic and vile, and they just want to just plow right through it. The highest level. Those of lesser aptitude will be motivated by the awareness of the world to come and the honor that abides there. They should not have to face the shameful realization that they had forfeited all the good that could have been theirs, meaning that, right, they're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and they get schar, they get merit, and they're like, okay, after I die, I don't want to be left with nothing. I don't want those who are like lowlier than me to be elevated. That motivates a person, right? I want to do the right thing. I want to have an impressive resume when I die. When I die and I face Hashem, I want to have an impressive resume. I want to do all that I can. So there's a little bit of like a selfish element there. We discussed this at great length before, right? So you're not totally laser focused on like, I don't care what happens. I just want to be with Hashem. Highest level. Next level is I want to do the best I can. I want to do the right thing. I want to make sure that I'm racking in all the merits, so that way after I die, I don't have a less than I didn't meet my potential, so to speak. And as for the masses, the general motivation, they'll be motivated by the realities of this world, its requirements, as I explained previously, talking about the reward and punishment factor that we have a broken sort of understanding of, right? The masses are going to be motivated by, why do I want to do good things? Because what's the consequences if I don't? Right? What happens if I pass up things, or if I go and I live an average life? What are the consequences to that? It's only my own personal happiness, but also I'm going to face the reality of that, right? If I allow myself to get, if I don't exercise and I become unhealthy and obese, I die very young. And the consequences are that you don't have a relationship with your grandkids because you had a heart attack at your late 50s or something, right? So in a spiritual sense, the same thing as well. If a person is not careful with what they do, that's what motivates the general masses. Again, reward and punishment is go back, I think, a few weeks ago. We talked about it in great length, and the miracle of teshuva and how that motivates it in. So, in the chapter 8, when he talks about acquiring zrizus, a lot of the same principles apply because really zrizus and zahiros are one and the same. Just one takes a focus on what I should not do, and the other one takes a focus on what I should do. Okay, let us begin. This is a great chapter, so we're gonna just begin. And we are going to just start off with the first couple of paragraphs here, talking about, as we do, right, broken down into the fours of what do I do that is going to prevent me from acquiring zrizus, right? What are the factors that I need to stay away from in order to prevent myself from becoming someone? I just want to say it again. I'm saying it every week, but it's very important to note again. We are in the stages of our lives where we're conditioning ourselves to how we're going to be. We don't want to be lazy adults. We don't want to be lazy in our pursuits of the things that matter. We don't want to cut corners. We want to do things to the fullest. If you condition yourself to be someone who lives and operates with zerizus, I need some of those hours of those naps. Right? If we condition ourselves to be someone who operates with zerizus, then ultimately we will develop ourselves into adults that are in the same. Okay, what is the worst and the most horrible factor that takes away from our ability to be zrizus? Now, this is the reason why this is very hard. Is I just shared this. I was doing a Zoom call about the purpose of gap year for the parents. We're talking a little bit about American culture and society. We live in a country that cares the most about instant gratification. Delayed gratification as a midah, as a character trait, is something that is not only beautiful, but it is so important to recognize that hard work today will pay off till tomorrow. And it's something that gets lost. Why? Because we have insane technological innovations and advancements in technology in almost all, virtually all, not all, some, we want to get into space, but virtually all of our pursuits of our technological advancements are in the pursuit of making life a little bit more comfortable, a little less work. Now you don't even have to drive. You don't have to vacuum your own floor. It's amazing. You got like the rover that will go around and the car will drive for you, right? That's the country we live in. Everything is about how much little I can do, how much corners I can cut. Yes, Chayasudi. Chat GPT, by the way. I don't have to write my own emails.
Just out of curiosity and the instant gratification and like laziness and comfortable, that's like the quality. Because you didn't say it and then I got worried.
Yes. No, I'm building it. I'm building the case. We're about to dive into what the worst thing is. What I'm getting at ultimately is that
It's like all of these things.
people want to, in this country, they want to prevent themselves from experiencing any pain or discomfort.
Okay.
That is the goal. I don't want to be uncomfortable for 5 seconds. I don't want to experience any pain, but pain is pleasure. Pain is what allows a person to grow. If you're not experiencing some form of pain, how are you really growing? So this is the problem in the country we live in today. Why? Why is everybody working so hard and going to school so they can go to college, so they can make a lot of money, so that they can be comfortable? So they can be comfortable. You think our grandparents had, you think our grandparents literally, I want to explain to my Holocaust surviving grandmother the concept of a walk-in closet. You know, find me one kid in America who has less than 5 pairs of shoes. Go ask. There, it doesn't exist. And if it does exist, the person's an idiot because you can buy a pair of shoes for $6 at Walmart. And they're pretty good, by the way. I pound them. But like we live into everything, the microwave and the phone. It's like, oh my God, it's loading? 3 seconds? This is garbage. I need to get the new model. Everything is about avoiding any sort of discomfort, and it's all about the pursuit of being comfortable. Now, the definition, I think we've gone on this rant before, so I don't know if I have to dive down this rabbit hole again. But how do you define comfort that I did in the Hebrew school? We had to define comfort, and I'll save you 45 minutes here. We came to the conclusion that comfortable means 5 bedrooms and 2 cars. I'm comfy. I made it. No, yeah, if you less than that, that's not comfortable. You gotta be comfy in life. Why? Because if I have a lot of money, and I'm comfortable, I don't have to work hard. I don't have to do anything. I can sit on my tuchus on the couch and eat chips and watch Netflix, and life is great. And this is the problem with America. Okay. Now, why am I saying this? Because we're at a disadvantage. We're all Americans. We all talk it. We all think it. We all the same. We're surrounded by kids every single day who think this way, even if it's subliminal. They don't even realize that it's like baked into the deepest levels of their consciousness that like everything is about how can I just not have to do, you know? Hold that thought and let's dive in. The factors that lead to the loss of alacrity is those that reinforce indolence, laziness, to be idle, to sit around and do nothing. And by the way, it's not just a physical thing, it's also an emotional thing. It's nice to see when kids have ambitions today because it's also sort of a lethargic thing. When kids have no ambitions, they have no drive to want to accomplish anything. And it makes sense. If you're brought up in a society that everything is about trying to offshoot any sort of work into the hands of a machine, right? Or something like that, then obviously it can seep into a person's ambitions as well, right? Some people are very motivated, but a lot of people are not. People are just like, oh, how can I do the least amount of work to get the most out of whatever it is? That type of attitude, what he's saying, is absolutely, it's direct poison to the pursuit of trying to condition ourselves to be people who operate with zrizas. The greatest of these desires is for physical ease and the dis I'm sorry, the dis someone help me out here. Let's go with the words. Sinas hatoirach, that the hatred of working hard, of exerting any effort, detestation, to detest something, yucky, of exertion. What is exertion? To put in effort. When a person has a disgust for putting in effort, lazy, I don't want to put in effort to something, I want to just cut corners and get it right. The ultimate pursuit of pleasure. If that is not a summary of what the American person is today, I don't know what is with our fat obese people in Disneyland, right? The pursuit of pleasure is like and how far out of our way we will go to not have to exert any energy or effort. Think about it. The investment that Trump mentioned the other day about creating databases for AI. AI is very cool. It can be very helpful. But like the amount of people who like now like don't have to learn how to do anything. When the zombie apocalypse comes, and by the way, this is me. This is me also. When the zombie apocalypse comes, we're all gonna die because none of us, when the supermarket shelves go dry, none of us know how to make food. We have no idea. Where does food come from? It comes from the grocery store. No, it doesn't. It comes from the ground. Somebody grew it. We have no idea. Every human being for all of time, except for like the really rich ones, but like, the peasants and so everyone knew how to grow food. It was like a basic thing. You ate because you made food. Now we don't even know how to make food anymore. Right? Everything is about how do I just not have to, what can I buy that like allows me to not do work in the pursuit of pleasure? The pursuit, ladies, the pursuit of pleasure is something that is poisonous. Now, I love me some good pleasure. I like to fly nice. I like to go to nice hotels, right? I like to relax just like the next person, don't get me wrong. But there has to be a level of heroes here because we need to know we're playing with fire. The pursuit of pleasure or the pursuit of comfort can actually kill us. Is- Yes, Das. Give you 2 years. You'll be on the grind too, don't worry. Right? The pursuit of pleasure can actually murder us. Yes, Shishi.
How do you know when to draw the line? Because like in life where like if I'm just want to watch a show and I'm like, "Oh God, that's gonna kill me because I want to watch a show." Like, how do I know when it's okay, when it's not, or it's just when it's impacting other parts of my life, or like how do you know?
Yeah, well, first is it's a fantastic question, and the fact that you're asking the question means you're probably a huge step up from everyone else. You have to be normal. You got to be healthy. What does it mean to be normal? Normal is healthy. Healthy means you're not making yourself crazy one way or the other. You have a healthy perspective on things. What that means more practically is you don't do things with mindlessness. Whatever it is that you're doing, right? If you're like, oh my God, I'm working really hard, I want to take a break, I want to watch a movie. Okay. Whatever it is that you do, if you can do it with a sense of mindfulness and to be present. I know what I'm doing right now. Even if, okay, I really should go to sleep, but I really want to watch another episode. I'm making the conscious decision to watch the episode, even though I know I'm going to be tired tomorrow. That is the icker. Because as long as a person is connected to reality and they know themselves well and they're continuing to work on themselves, then they'll have a grip on not losing themselves. The danger is to lose yourself. The danger is, oh my God, it's 6 a.m. and I got to go to school. I didn't actually sleep. I was on TikTok all night. I wasn't aware of the time. I lost, it's happened. Someone told me that recently. If I lose a sense of myself, so everything that you do has to be healthy, and that starts with having an awareness. Where you draw the line, no, I can't tell you that because every person's different, right? Everyone's person is different of where the center of where they're at. But if you know yourself well, you know how things affect you, you think about these things. And everything you do with a sense of intention and awareness, you are going to protect yourself. You won't fall off the deep end, I believe. Yeah, Dasi.
Thank you.
She, so I have like no self-control whatsoever, but my friend, she makes sure that if she wants to watch a show or a movie or she wants to go to the movie theater or whatever, she only goes with a friend or she only watches with a friend. So it keeps her from like being home alone and like watching a show and just like totally like wasting her time, you know? So like I don't know, just a tip if you wanted it.
It's really
Thank
cool.
you.
It sounds a shtickle intense, but I mean it does it's a
Yeah.
cool.
Guys, also
A
new
stickle not
discovery
me.
is time limits on apps, which literally it's
I
the
do.
best
That
thing
does
ever.
not
I do
work.
that too.
Guys,
Yeah, I do it too, and I press that all day button every day.
time limits are the best. You can set them also. I just like found out that you can set them that like your friend needs like only has the password to turn it off. There's apps for that like your friend has the password and like if you need more time, you literally have to like text your friend like begging them like,
Yeah,
can you please
actually,
let me on like,
I
TikTok? Can
told
you
my
please let
mom
me on
to do
That's
Instagram?
that. She
so
has the code.
annoying.
By
That's
the way,
I told my
there's apps for that, and also like you have, especially when you set like a time limit, you're like, okay, I have an hour and a half of this, which is like when you think about it, like it's crazy, but like an hour and a half is like not that like realistically, like probably to everyone's free time, it's not that much, but like an hour and a half. So you're like, okay, wait, I'll do my homework now because like right before bed, I know I'm gonna want to watch Instagram and like I can't take away my before bedtime. Like I need to do something else now so I can like have my before bedtime. And
Yeah.
then like so often I'm like, okay, like I need to do my time later. Like I want my time later. And then I'm going to sleep and it's already midnight and I'm like, I literally didn't do my time the whole day. And now it's already counting as the next day.
It's a window into Rashi's brain over here,
You're so stark, Kayseri.
right?
You're so cute.
It's but yeah, I mean, like if
Time limits are my favorite. You have no idea. You
Is
reduce
that
like
only
5
really,
minutes.
Rashi?
If you have enough self-control not to click the button, like that button shouldn't be there. It should just lock me out of my account.
I wanna chip into this. I agree with Serai. Like actually, like I have a time
It's
limit on
also
my
so
Instagram.
rewarding.
anyone
So
else want to
good.
chip in? Yeah.
It's so rewarding. Sorry. It's so rewarding
So good.
when
Poppy,
you
what did you
click
say?
the
Everyone
button
laughed. They
of
missed
like,
it.
okay, take me out of this app. Like your time expires and you click take me out of this app. And like, you're like, don't go back on it. And you're like, okay, that's so sad. But like, how strong was I like not to click like continue? It's
Only
so rewarding. It's the best
mine
feeling
doesn't
in the
even let me
world.
continue. Mine just says like you're done and it kicks me out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do your parents like do it, or are you in charge of it?
No, I'm in charge of it. If I
I
want
know.
to, if I could, I want to change it. I could take it out. I could do whatever I want.
You should do the friend thing.
And like, there's some times where like you need to click like extend my time. Like I like post on like the like not road post, but like the camera pictures of the grade, whatever. Like that's like the school Instagram. But like, okay, like I'll wait till my time runs out of the day, and then like I'll switch to their Instagram and not switch back until after.
You gotta send that app in the chat there. It's pretty awesome. The musical for the other watch delete snap. He'll get me fame. What does that mean?
Fame on Central. It's like shopping.
Oh, nice. That's what. Okay. Anyway, I think this is a good stopping point over here. We'll pick it up tomorrow because there's a lot to talk about this specifically.
This is all in the recording.
Yeah, and it really centers around what Shira's question was, which is like, how do you set yourself up for success? And there are like different tips and tricks, but at the end of the day, like you're in charge of yourself. You have to be, you have the wherewithal. You cannot win a battle that you don't know you're fighting. So if a person realizes like, oh, it's so bad, I'm staying up late tonight and I'm staying up late another night, then it just becomes your choice when you want to start to fight back. But you can't fight back if you don't know what's happening with you. So that, they're very much interconnected. But you have to take a hard look also in terms of like how important is that pleasure to me, right? Again, like this is a great topic for me to speak about because I absolutely love, to sit toesies in the sand, snoring, drooling at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a beach somewhere. I love that, right? The question is that how much does your love and your taiva, your desire for that type of pleasure, right? Where does it fit in your life, and how are you setting yourself up to not lose yourself? Because that's man's nature and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that starting next week. We'll dive into to chapter 10, and we'll finish up with Zerizos.
Chapter 9.
Chapter 10.
We finished chapter 9?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right.
I don't
I
have books.
and the recording and here.
You need to get you a Shira. I don't have a